Ray Dalio says the AI boom has bubble signs. A high-profile AI fund reportedly fell 67% in July, and now a lot of people are asking the same question. Should you sell everything? My answer is no. Not because AI is safe, and not because every AI stock is cheap, and not because I know what happens next. The answer is no, because sell everything is usually an emotional answer to a pretty serious question. The better question is this: what is your plan if AI stocks keep going up, or they move sideways, or they fall hard from here? We all have to have a plan, and that's what we're going to cover today. This is educational. It's not personal financial advice. The goal is to think clearly while the headlines are trying to make everyone emotional. I'm Mark Yegi. Let's get into it. The biggest change this week was not just the price, it was the mood. I don't know if you're feeling it, but for a long time, the message around AI was simple: get in or get left behind. And that kind of message creates the fear of missing out. FOMO, right? People buy because they don't want to be the only one who missed the big move. And so these stocks have hockey sticks up, right? And now the message is changing. The new fear is this: what if I'm buying at the top? Well, that shift matters, right? Because markets are moved not only by facts, they're also moved by people reacting to facts. They're moved by rumors and videos and headlines and emotion.
$7 trillion in spending, but only $5 trillion in revenue. Ray, are we already past the point of no return, that the fact we have this dynamic means that some sort of crisis is inevitable?
Yes, we're past the point of no return, meaning when debt service payments squeeze out spending, like plaque in the circulatory squeezes out the flow of money, the flow of blood, it's the same kind of thing. It could be measured. So we're seeing that happen. And then there's a supply and a demand issue. The supply of one budget deficit means that debt has to be sold, and you have a supply-demand issue. And we could see it happening in the bond market, and we could see that bonds have been a bad investment, and that there's pressure in interest rates and there's borrowing. And that's one of the five factors, as you're saying. But that dynamic is happening. People are treating it like if it hasn't happened before. They don't understand that, like plaque in the arteries, that it builds up and they have that exposure. So I think when you're looking, I think a particularly vulnerable period is after the midterm elections and before the presidential election, because as we connect these forces, we have that issue, right, the debt issue, and we also are going to have a great deal of political conflict that has implications for taxes, it has implications for all sorts of things.
And when the crowd changes from excitement to doubt, prices can move pretty fast. But here's the trap. A change in mood is not the same thing as a change in proof, right? It's a signal to pay attention, not a command to panic. The event that grabbed attention was the reported 67% July drawdown at Situational Awareness. Now that's an AI-focused fund, and 67% of a drop in 1 month is not a normal bad month, right? That's the kind of loss that can force a manager to sell positions, to reduce risk, to have to change the whole investment strategy. And that's what happened. And we have to be careful, though, about what this proves. It does not prove that AI is dead. It does not prove that every AI company is a fraud. It proves something more basic in investing. If you combine a hot theme, big concentration, and borrowed money, you can get into trouble very quickly. The lesson is not AI failed here. The lesson is risk management failed. And risk management is like probably one of the most important things in investing, if not the most important thing. But this is the most important distinction in the whole video. AI can be real, it can be useful, world-changing, while some AI stocks can still be overpriced. Both things can be true at the same time. And the internet was real in 1999. Remember, it changed the world. We still use it today, tons, right? But many internet stocks were still terrible investments at the prices people paid. I mean, most of them weren't even making money. Electric vehicles now are real. Solar is real. Crypto is real. But every one of those areas had moments where prices ran far ahead of reality. A great technology does not automatically make every stock a great buy. Price matters, timing matters, position sizing matters, and your income needs matter, right? I always say that the stock story is different than the stock price. Fundamentals and technicals are different things. Researchers and market analysts have found signs of speculative excitement in parts of the AI trade. In plain English, that means that some stocks may have moved up faster than the business results can support. But that doesn't mean that every AI stock falls tomorrow. It also doesn't mean that the whole market has to crash. Markets can stay expensive longer than people expect. They can correct by falling. They can also correct by going sideways for a long time while the earnings catch up. And so instead of asking, is AI a bubble, I would ask, which stocks are priced for perfection? And what happens if perfection doesn't show up? That's a much better investing question, isn't it? The 1999 comparison is pretty useful, but it's too easy maybe. Back then, many companies had little revenue, no profits, and business models that were more hope than reality. I remember there was this guy named Christos Kostakos who ran E-Trade, and he got on TV and he actually said this. He goes, "We're putting a moratorium on profit." Why would you say that if you're a CEO of a company? This was a company that said, we just want to see eyeballs on our website. Today, some AI leaders are huge companies with real customers, real earnings, and massive cash flow. And that matters. It doesn't make them immune from a big decline, but it does make the situation a little bit different. A company can be excellent and still have a stock that's too expensive. And that's what investors really need to focus on. We don't have to choose between AI is fake and buy everything. There's kind of a middle ground. And that middle ground is probably where we want to be. And that's where we require discipline. And this is where leverage comes in. Leverage simply means using borrowed money or borrowed exposure to make a bigger bet than your cash would normally allow. When prices go up, leverage feels brilliant. You bang your chest, you feel like a king, right? It makes the gains bigger. But when prices go down, it makes losses bigger too. And the worst part is that leverage can force you to sell at the worst possible time. And that's why a normal pullback can become a crisis for the over-leveraged investor. The stock might recover later, but that doesn't help if you're forced out near the bottom. That is the monster we want to kill while it's small. For retirees or people approaching retirement, this is not just a chart problem, it's an income problem. A 25% drop is painful for anybody. But if you're retired and taking money out of the portfolio at the same time, well, the damage can be a lot worse. This is called the sequence of returns risk. The name sounds complicated, but the idea is pretty simple. Losses early in retirement are more dangerous because you may have to sell shares when they're down. Then you own fewer shares when the recovery comes. And that's why retirees need a different mindset. They can't rely just on hope and long-term averages. They need cash flow. They need risk control and a plan before the decline happens. Right now, many investors are trapped between two fears. One fear says, if I buy now, I might be buying at the top. The other fear says, if I don't buy, I might miss out on the next big move. And that's what happens. People get paralyzed, right? And that's how it happens. They stop following a process and they start following emotion. They listen to the news, or TV or CNBC or whatever. The market loves that. It pulls people in when prices are extended and then it scares them out after the drop. It's kind of the opposite of how it's supposed to be, right? The answer isn't to guess harder. The answer is to decide in advance what you're going to do at different price levels. So when the fear arrives, you're way less likely to make a bad emotional decision. Here at the Cashflow Machine, the goal is not to predict one future perfectly because nobody gets that right? The goal is to prepare for three futures. First, the market could continue higher. If that happens, we want to stay really disciplined and we don't want to chase bad entries, okay? The spot on the chart is really important. Second, the market could go sideways. And if that happens, income strategies become more useful because time becomes part of the plan. Third is that the market could drop, right? And if that happens, we need position size, We need defense rules, cash reserves, all kinds of rules to eliminate the emotion. And that's the difference between prediction and preparation, right? Prediction says, I know what happens next. Preparation says, I've got a plan no matter what happens. Covered calls can be useful in uncertain markets, but we have to describe them honestly. A covered call is not magic. It doesn't remove the stock risk. If the stock falls hard enough, the premium you collected will not protect you from all of those losses. You know that, right? But the premium can help, and it can lower your cost basis, and it can create cash flow while the market is a little bit choppy. It can give you a more disciplined way to manage a position instead of just hoping, because hoping is not a strategy. The key is to use covered calls on stocks that you're willing to own at position sizes that you can handle with a clear defense plan. Income is helpful, but risk management is still required. Instead of reacting to every video or every headline, watch the evidence. For this topic, I would watch QQQ or Nvidia or Microsoft or Meta, which is Facebook, Alphabet, Broadcom, Tesla. But I wouldn't watch them just for entertainment. I would watch 6 things. Is the price above or below the major moving averages? Are the leaders still leading? Is market breadth improving or is it getting a little weaker? Is volatility rising or falling? Are earnings estimates still holding up? And are option premiums rich enough to justify the risk? That kind of a checklist keeps you grounded, and it moves the conversation from fear to evidence. So, should you sell everything? My answer is still no, not as a blanket rule. Instead, slow down and ask yourself better questions. Has the business story changed? Are the fundamentals changing? Is the stock still technically healthy? Is the position too big? Are you using leverage? Do you need the money soon, right? Are you retired and pulling income from the portfolio? These questions matter more than the headline. Selling everything might feel safe for a few hours, but can also create a new problem. What do you do if the market turns back up? Do you have a plan? A plan should tell you when to reduce, when to just hold, when to hedge, and when to collect income. Here's my conclusion. AI may be stretched. Some stocks may be priced too high. Some investors may be taking too much risk. And yes, we could see a lot more downside, but the collapse of one leveraged fund is not proof that AI is over. Far from it. It's proof that concentration and leverage can be dangerous if you don't manage it properly. The right response is not blind optimism, and it's not panic. The right response is disciplined risk management. That means knowing what you own, knowing why you own it, knowing how much risk you're taking, and knowing exactly what you're going to do before the market forces you to decide. We got to take those emotions out of the trade. So here's the practical action plan. First, audit your AI exposure. Look at direct positions like Nvidia or Microsoft. Also look at funds that may have heavy AI exposure under the hood. Second, reduce any position that's too large for your comfort. If one stock can ruin your year, the position is too big. Think about what happens if the stock declines 10 or 15%, because that's happening right now. Third, review covered call opportunities only where the stock quality, the trend, and the premium make sense. Don't sell calls just because you want income. Income is important, but it's not the be-all, end-all. Fourth, write down your defense rules. At what point do you adjust? Do you reduce? Do you roll? Do you defend your position? Do you exit? A written plan beats a strong opinion every single time. So the headline here is not the plan. Ray Dalio is not your plan. A viral video is not your plan. A hedge fund loss is not your plan. The plan is your position size, your cash flow, your rules, and your ability to stay calm when the market gets loud. AI may still have a huge future, and I believe it will. Some AI stocks may still fall really hard. Both of these things can be true. So don't let the market force you into emotional decisions. Prepare, size correctly, generate income where it makes sense, defend early, and most importantly, know what you're going to do before the next headline hits.